Hello everyone, a warm welcome to you all. My name is Mo and I'm at Geek Retreat in Huddersfield. A bit excited for this one. Can you introduce yourself please?
Yeah, hello, my name's Colin Thornton and I'm co-designer along with my fellow director of City of Chaos.
Fantastic. Right, so Colin has agreed to answer a shed load of my questions. So thank you very much for that. So first of all, Colin, are you a board game enthusiast yourself?
Yeah, I would say I was. I started originally with role-playing and it was the, Dungeons and Dragons.
If you don't mind me asking, how long ago was that?
I bought the Stephen Jackson book way back in probably 1980. Yeah, would be around about that period. Yeah, so still got that original, so I would imagine that that original's probably worth a fair bit, is that book.
Okay. And your love for that sort of led you down to...
Yeah, it kind of grew out of there. Equally, I started getting into a little bit into computer board game design, and it was at that point that I met Martin. Martin Oliver was at one point a big noise in Activision.
Activision, wow.
Yeah, and so he worked alongside them with their game design, and so when I met him, I forget entirely what he was doing, but it certainly wasn't in game design. We both clicked, and I'd always said I wanted a game that we could play that would be modular, so that it would build and it would grow. And we also came up with the idea that basically in life your character starts out and you don't know what you're going to be. You have no idea what direction your life's going to take. You know, you might be an Olympic athlete, or you might work in a city bank. Until you've actually defined your skills, you don't know where you're going. So in the board game, it started out that the initial concept was that the city's in a state of chaos. A wizard greets you at the gates and says, "The world's a mess. I need some volunteers. I need some helpers. Can you come along and help me out? Sort out the city. And if you can, you'll be richly rewarded." So the idea was that each character started out and you had no principal mindset of who you were. You weren't... in a lot of board games you play, fantasy board games, you might play a wizard, or you might play a dwarf, you might play a fighter, you might play all this kind of stuff. In here, you didn't know what you were until you stepped inside various locations, and locations are revealed as you actually you walk inside a room, and then it's revealed as a location. And in this case, it just happens to be the Silver Serpent Inn that we've got out there.
So, what year was it that you had the idea for City of Chaos?
We're going back some years now. Do you know, it's about 27 years ago since City of Chaos closed its doors, and it was 5 years in the making. So I'm not good at maths. So however,
2 years ago.
Yeah, probably about that. Yeah.
And where did you get your inspiration from for such a game?
We played initially a game by a company called Waddington's, who sadly are now no longer on the go, and the game was called Hero Quest. And we both went and scratched our heads and said, "Oh my goodness, if we can't do better than this, we're a pair of idiots." So we both sat down, and basically it took 5 years or so for the board game to kind of fully flesh itself out. The hardest part was getting the funding, because most places turn you away once you've actually said, "Oh well, we designed a board game." You know, "Oh yeah, right, there's no money in that." But then when you actually we used to use the term, "How well do you think Trivial Pursuits did?" Oh, Trivial Pursuits, yeah. And of course Trivial Pursuits did phenomenally well. As a number of other games have, City of Chaos developed a cult status. If you look, there's the best place to find old City of Chaos is on Board Games Geek.
Okay.
Board Games Geek, yeah, that's the best place to find it. And there's some great reviews on there that will explain what the game's about.
So you and your friend, you had this idea to develop this board game.
Yep.
Where did your inspiration for the story and the characters come from? So you had other games that inspired you, but
Yeah, but I mean that was just a kind of like platform to build on. We knew we wanted to create a role-playing game. I wanted to create a board game that initially the streets would expand and it would just run in any direction. So it's played as big as your table, basically. So if you run out of table space, that's how big your playing surface is. If it's less than that, then that's the way it works. But so where it arose from is we just literally, of our heads, characters would pop up. There's 150 NCPs being non-player characters that are actually hidden in here. The game also has multiple endings, so that each time you play it, it's going to be a different experience. In fact, every time you play it, it's going to be a different experience, because the board game is just going to literally flow. And so where you thought things were, they're in a different place when you come to play it again. Unless you make the decision, and if you've got the space, to keep it open. But if you close it, we say the city has folded, the chaos has taken over, you've stepped out, and once you step back in again, you can unfold it again and find your way through the chaos.
Fantastic. So I just want to talk about the game itself. How many players can play at one time?
6, I believe.
That's fine. And how long does it take for
Now, there's the rub. It could take you an evening, and you might be able to solve it. But in general, it won't. It will take you longer than that. It could take you up to 3 weeks. Because each time you play it, then your character's developing and fleshing out, and your other players are beginning to get a better idea of what their quests are and all the rest of it. So it varies as to the amount of time that it will take. And then we did have at one stage, it was quite funny, and that was at the UK gaming festival, and a chap said, he says, "It can't be won, it can't be done, City of Chaos can't be beaten." And a 14-year-old boy stood up to the platform and just said, "It can," he says, "and I've solved it." He says, "I've done it 4 times over." So it does depend on your mindset. You have to be playing a kind of slightly detective kind of role, because you're unfolding things and you're looking at clues and you're investigating what's actually going on, but then you're also developing your character along the way. So we have various different skills. So you could be a duelist, a pyrotechnic, a pneumologist, a mesmerist, a magi. So there's a whole series of different skills. You can be a member of 2 different guilds, but the 2 guilds mustn't clash with each other. So you couldn't have, say, a somatologist mixed with a duelist, because a duelist would have to take on a fight no matter what. He couldn't turn it down. So if you were challenged as a duelist, you'd have to go to battle. And the somatologists are all about the healing skills. So you can imagine those 2 skills cannot live together. So,
was that your intention, to have a game that can take an evening, can take a few weeks?
yeah, it was one that, we liked a world that could develop. Not something that was a simple 2-minute affair or half an hour kind of a thing. We wanted something that would take a bit of time and require you to have a little bit of intellect and a little bit of thought process into what was going on. Yeah.
So where would people, if they want to purchase this game, where could they purchase it from?
Now, the only place that you can get City of Chaos from at present moment would be copies on eBay. However, I was contacted just before the pandemic by an Italian gentleman, and at first I thought it was a spam. Are you Colin Thornton of Monocle Games, co-designer of City of Chaos? Yes, I am. Do you know Martin Oliver, a co-designer? Says, I do, but I haven't spoken to him in like 25, 26 years. Yeah. So, and then he said, I'm Aries Games. And so eventually we found ourselves in a position where we were able to get a new contract, a new company, and we decided then to revamp the game and bring it out. So the rules have been changed slightly. The characters, there's some extra characters in there. It's not everybody that can actually bring in to the game. My daughter's actually in the game because she's actually an animal trainer in the game, which is one of the initial characters. So the difference is with this time, you're starting off with a character.
Okay.
You're starting out with some traits. You're starting out with skills. People, Old City of Chaos said that getting to a point whereby you could actually get to grips with the game was taking quite a while to build your character. So there were some of the original comments before. We were contacted by a couple of companies before, but from one reason or another, things didn't sit right. But with Ares, they've just embraced it fully. We've seen Martin's had some figures made out from one of these, what does he call them? The plotters.
Yeah.
I forget the name for them. Brain fog. But yeah, he's had some of the figures made out and they look absolutely mint. So it's a completely different, well, not a completely different game. The game still has the original quests in it. It still has the Tome of Chaos in it. The Tome of Chaos, by the way, is a book. At first you think, oh my goodness, how daunting is this? That book drives the game. So there's a series of interactions. We loved, there was a whole series of books that started out and they were paragraph driven. So initially even the first fantasy games on the computer would say, would you like to turn north, would you like to turn east, would you like to turn south, would you like to go to the swampy bogland, wherever, visit the crypt, and when you're in the crypt you meet would you like to stab him with your sword, hit him with a club, or run like the clappers down the road. And those gave you those kind of interactions, and it was from those books also that this arose, because then we liked the fact that there was a great level of interaction, and the fact also that games it happens in your head. It's all about your imagination. So anybody that actually plays this game, it's a completely different experience for everybody that plays it, because if they meet Sly Pearson, the landlord, at the Grinning Rat, who's Sly Pearson? He's a different person to everybody that plays the game.
So just lastly, to buy the old version of the game, you can get on eBay.
You could get it on eBay. You're going to be looking round about anywhere between 80, possibly £100, maybe more. It is a cult game. Chances of getting your hands on it are rare. People who have said of all the games that they've got, this one they wouldn't want to part with. It was also, City of Chaos was also compared with another board game that we never actually played at the time, a board game called Arabian Nights. And I'd still like to be able to get my hands on a copy of Arabian Nights, but it has been compared favourably with Arabian Nights, which is equally another cult board game that's out there.
Right, Colin, I have no further questions, but I really want to thank you for your time. And
okay, no worries.
Melissa as well from the Language Connection Club for putting me in touch with you. So seriously, Colin, thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.